So, have you ever wondered how psychologists actually measure something as incredibly complex as the human mind? Well, today we're going to find out. We're diving into a crash course, and we're using a real university syllabus as our roadmap. Okay, so here's our guide, a course outline from Macaco's University. We're literally going to break this down just like you would in a college lecture. I think it's a perfect way to get a really structured look at the whole world of psychological assessment. All right, here's the syllabus for our class today. First, we'll define the fundamentals. Then, we'll peek inside the psychologist's toolkit. After that, we'll cover the super important ethical rules, and we'll wrap up with the biggest takeaway. Okay, first things first. What in the world is psychological assessment, and why does it matter so much? When you think about it, unlike something like diabetes, there's no blood test for depression, right? That's the exact problem psychological assessment is trying to solve. It's all about taking these internal experiences, things like anxiety or intelligence, and finding a way to quantify them, to turn them into something measurable so we can actually understand what's going on. And this is where it gets really practical. I mean, this isn't just some abstract theory. Assessment is a tool. It's used to answer really critical questions, like what is this person actually struggling with? It helps form a diagnosis, it guides the entire treatment plan, and it can even help predict future challenges or successes down the line. Now, for any test to be worth the paper it's printed on, it has to pass two major checks. First up is reliability. Think about a bathroom scale. If you step on it 3 times in 1 minute and get 3 wildly different numbers, that scale is not reliable. A psychological test has to be consistent. But then there's validity. Is it measuring the right thing? That scale might be super reliable, giving you the same number every time, but it's not a valid tool for measuring, say, your IQ. A good test has to be both consistent and measure what it actually claims to measure. So, how do psychologists actually do this? How do they gather all of this information? Let's open up the toolkit and see the main methods they've got at their disposal. The world of psychological tests is huge. I mean, there are hundreds of them, but you can really boil them all down to 2 major approaches: projective tests and objective tests. And this shows the difference perfectly. Projective tests give you something really vague, like an ink blot, and your response is completely open-ended. The whole point is to explore the unknown. Objective tests, they're the complete opposite. They are super structured. Think true-false or multiple-choice questions, so the answers can be scored mathematically. It's all about precise measurement. This quote just nails the whole idea behind projective tests, like the famous Rorschach ink blot test. By giving you something that has no inherent meaning, the test kind of forces you to project your own thoughts and feelings onto it. And in doing that, you might reveal parts of your subconscious, hidden conflicts or thoughts you didn't even know you had. Now, on the other side of the coin, a lot of objective tests are what we call self-report questionnaires, and their biggest strength is pretty obvious, right? Who knows you better than, well, you? It's like a direct window into your own thoughts and feelings, straight from the source. But, and this is a big but, there's a flip side. We aren't always the best reporters of our own lives. I mean, someone filling out a survey about drinking might kind of downplay how much they actually drink. Or sometimes a person might just not have the self-awareness to accurately describe their own anxiety. And that is exactly why psychologists never rely on just one source of data. Okay, so when you have tools this powerful, you absolutely have to have strict rules. So let's look at the ethical guardrails that every single professional has to follow. No exceptions. Which leads to this massive question. What stops these tools from being misused? How do we make sure people are protected? The number one foundational rule is competence. It's right there in the Code of Ethics. All it means is that professionals have to stay in their lane. They can only use the tests and techniques that they have the proper education, training, and experience to use, period. So the main point here is that a really clear ethical framework is in place to protect every single client. This covers everything from informed consent, which means you know exactly what you're agreeing to, all the way to strict confidentiality of your results. It also guarantees you have a right to see those results and that the tests themselves are kept secure, all while making sure we avoid just slapping harmful labels on people. So, we've gone through the what, the why, the how, and the rules. What's the single most important thing to remember from our little crash course today? Here it is, the key takeaway. A really good, reliable assessment is a lot like a detective's investigation. A detective would never close a case based on just one clue, right? Psychologists don't either. They triangulate information from lots of sources, like a clinical interview, scores from an objective test, and maybe even reports from a teacher or a parent to build the fullest, most accurate picture possible. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. These tools, they give us an incredible map of a person's inner world. The real challenge for everyone involved is to always use that map to help navigate and guide, not to just stick people in boxes.